Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly Q&A. A bit different, back like old times. We're on a Thursday this week. So I'm going to be your host, Mod Rock, and with me we have Mod Ash, who appears to maybe have frozen. Mod Tithe, who is in his own room somewhere. And someone you may not have seen before, in his office, someone you may not have seen before, Mod Arcane.
Hello.
We'll go through his introduction in a second, just a few things we need to get through first. Last week we released April's Journal Gazette. This included some insights into a settings menu overhaul we're looking to doing, and a bit more info in the Hallowed Sepulchre. If you type !Gazette in the chat, you can have a read up more of that and view the Gazette itself. Starting tomorrow morning with the APAC qualifiers, we have our 3-day 1 vs 1 tournament that we're currently hosting. We have some guest live streamers that are going to be hosting the qualifiers. We have Perp, Faux Freedom, Aiza, and Abyss. So if you keep an eye on Twitch over the weekend, you'll be able to see their qualifying streams. And we have the finals live with us on Sunday evening. If you type !1v1 in the chat, you'll be able to get more info about that. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask on the Q&A, type !questions and you'll be taken to the form where to submit them. And let's crack on with it. How is everyone doing today? Being a Thursday as opposed to a Wednesday is a little bit different for us.
A bit interesting. Didn't expect it. Day's going pretty well though. Can't complain.
That's always good to hear. What about you, Ash?
Doing all right. Worried about my network connection at the moment, but I'm having a nice day. Shame about the network.
So if our ash.exe does get a 404 error, we know you haven't broken, it's just your internet. What about yourself, Mod Arcane?
That reboot Mod Ash thing really might be...
Yeah, I'm good. Same old.
Yeah, as always, there is a slight delay between what we hear and what we say and what goes live, so please bear with us if we do have anything like that. I suppose it probably adds a little bit more to the interestingness of the stream, or at least be a little bit funny. Mod Arcane, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Mod Arcane. I started 2 weeks ago, so I'm literally brand new. I'm a content developer for the old school team. I've worked at a couple of games companies before, but I've always had an eye on Jagex and specifically the old school team since I started old school in 2018. So I'm fairly new to the game. I did play it when I was a kid, of course, but in terms of actually playing it for properly, consistently, for about 2 years now. I'm mainly a PVMer, so I've been doing a PVM on my main quite a lot for the past 2 years. But around 7 months ago, after I did bossing Slayer for quite a while, I got 3000 KC on the Grotesque Guardian boss, which was very slow. But I decided to make an Ironman. I made the switch, and that's been a good 7 months so far.
Not all of us can be as lucky as Kieran and getting the pet super early.
Yeah, imagine having a pet. Some of us have got it, some of us haven't. Sorry about that. 50-50 chance, but can't all be lucky.
Well, that's what I say. So, I'm going to ask a couple of questions to you, Mod Arcane. Some things we normally ask new people that we have on the live stream. If you could add one thing into the game, what would it be and why?
It would definitely be Raids 3 or Inferno 2, just because they're raids in general. I've played quite a lot of both of them, and there's just so much content, there's so much depth to it, and there's so many ways to play it. And Inferno is just so cool. As a kid, fight caves was always such an inspirational thing and such a hype thing to accomplish. So when I heard about old school having Inferno, basically the sequel to the fight caves, that's what actually made me start it and get really hyped about it, and that was basically my goal ever since. So being able to create Raids 3 or Inferno 2 would definitely be the top choice.
I'm sure there'll be quite a few people that will be happy to hear that. Have you got your eyes on any areas where you'd like to see them in?
The desert would definitely be a good shout for Raids 3, right? I think a lot of people have got their eyes on that. In terms of Inferno 2, it might not be a strict sequel, it might just be a hard mode, it depends what would be more appropriate. But yeah, I'm not sure if another area would be too fitting for Inferno 2, right?
Well, you might have to fight Kieran to get your teeth into something like that, but I'm sure we can work together to produce something a lot harder, that's for sure.
Definitely.
You said you play old school a fair amount with your having both a main and an Ironman.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on perhaps what your current goals are?
So up till last month, my number one goal on my Ironman was to get a Twisted Bow. Twisted Bow has always been such a cool item to get and such a monumental achievement, especially for an Ironman, because it does so much for the account, saving scales and so forth. But I did actually get it, so now I'm a bit lost. Trying to look for other goals. Currently, I've been looking at Metamorphic Dust since challenge modes are quite fun, and just picking up the remaining best in slot gear.
Yeah, I think speaking of the Metamorphic Dust, Mod Lottie put some information out on her Twitter about Metamorphic Dust recently. There are 2 people in game that have the pet and the dust, but have not put them together. So that's a crime against humanity, and we're probably going to take action and remove their accounts. That's a joke, but some people might take it a little bit seriously.
We can just take the dust.
Yeah, we can remove the dust and make them get it again. Clearly they don't want it, so maybe we can give it out to people more deserving. Right, moving on to one of the topics that I briefly mentioned in the intro, the 1v1 tournament. So a few basic frequently asked questions that we've got. I'm not interested in fighting, so how will I be able to see the 1v1 tournament fights if I don't have access to the worlds? Like I mentioned before, there's going to be a series of streams on Twitch over the weekend. We have guest commentators in each local area to be able to host and cast their fights. Like I said, we have Perp covering the APAC qualifiers. We have Abyss and Foe covering the NA East and NA West qualifiers. And we've got a regular face that you may remember, Aiza, is covering the European qualifiers. So if I remember the schedule correctly, we have APAC tomorrow morning, GMT. Then we have the EU in the evening. The American qualifiers are Saturday evening, GMT. And the finals, where the top 8 from each group will go into a knockout formula, and that is Sunday evening. Exclamation mark 1v1 should be able to get you all the exact times you'll need to be able to tune into everything you want to watch. Our question has been, can I get some practice ahead of time using tournament worlds before the start time of my qualifying match? Pretty much everyone that has been invited will have a message in their message center inbox. And the tournament worlds for those players opened up with the live update this week. So get as much practice in any of the worlds against any of the other players who are competing. What if I can't attend my specific match for emergency reasons, but I can attend another match at a later, earlier time? Because of how the tournament is run, you have a 15-minute grace period to attend the match of the round that you're currently in. Failure to do so will event in a forfeit, and you will no longer be participating in the tournament, unfortunately. That's just the way it goes. Question to open up to all of us on the live stream. If this is successful, what are your thoughts on doing another one later this year? Modash, if you'd like to kick us off.
Didn't actually hear that. Sorry, my sound cut out. Maybe I shouldn't try answering it either then.
If the 1v1 is successful, what are your thoughts about doing another one later this year?
Totally up for that, although it's not the only kind of competition we'd like to do. When we first started having this lockdown and started looking at things we could get players engaged with, obviously this 1v1 was one of them. We'd also like to do something with larger groups. It's been a while since we had a clan cup kind of thing, or anything with 5v5s. And also, of course, we've got the Dead Man thing, and I don't in the slightest regret that that's what's coming up after the 1v1s.
Mod Tithe, what about you?
I think if it's successful and the players want it, I don't see why not doing one a year bi-seasonally. It'd be pretty nice.
Do you think they should be perhaps as common as the Dead Man tournaments were, or interspersed with a few other things in between?
Probably interspersed with other few things in between. Because I think it's only a weekend thing, but it'll go pretty quick because it's a 1v1 tournament. But definitely every other season, if we were to do it, or maybe just once a year, like with what Ash said, just sprinkle in something different.
Mod Arcane, what about yourself?
Yeah, similar thoughts to Mod Tithe. As long as we have time to make it a bit more interesting each time, spice it up, add a bit of flavor to it. Like we've talked about using the relic system in Deadman as well, so maybe investigating that a bit more and setting that up. I think we could run that somewhat frequently. I think it'd be really good if the players want it.
If the players want it, we put it forward. And the last question around the tournament session is, when will we hear more about Dead Man mode? Like Ash just said, we have the beta coming up. We should have information to publish on Tuesday, I believe, is when we believe we'll have everything finalised to announce, like the competition rules, etc., etc. So keep an eye out for that. That's where you should get everything in terms of the beta and the season and finale itself. The next topic we'd like to cover today is the return of Bounty Hunter. And we will be editing the blog based on some feedback around the Vestas Longsword that we have had, so please keep an eye out for that via our social. We've got a few questions that we've been put forward that I'd like to ask people. There's been some concerns regarding not polling the Bounty Hunter Wilderness only rewards. What was the thought process behind that?
Shall I take this?
You might be better placed than anyone.
So, something we've found with polling over the years is that there's some topics where the results do not actually reflect the merits of the content. Now, for most things, a skilling update doesn't put people against each other so much. Same with PvM. But with PvP, you get players have a very strong incentive not to want to be killed more easily. And they will frequently be a majority. So what we're getting from the poll results isn't so much an assessment of, is this thing balanced, is this thing good, is this thing the direction the game ought to go. What you're getting is quite a lot of, but I don't want to be killed by it, which is, well, it's a reason to vote that way. But I don't think that's been serving the game so well, because the only things that were ever passing that went in the wilderness were very clearly not for PvPers. They were for things like Wilderness Slayer, Laren's chests. So many things we've put there that involve you actually fighting and getting loot, and you're in the wilderness. And the things that would maybe help somebody come and kill you didn't tend to do quite so well. So I'm afraid that's not been working so well for us. What we would like to do, though, is try to minimise the impact of this so that it won't have so much effect on people outside of Bounty Hunter. That's why I think the blog's already been updated shortly before we went live, I think, so that it's the thing only works on Bounty Hunter worlds. That means that people, when encountering it, will actually have opted in a sense, by choosing to play in the Wilderness world. We're also addressing another concern that was raised about it involving its requirements. 78 attack, while it's traditional for Vestas Longsword, means changing some builds. Now, could be worth it. I mean, the thing's powerful enough. On the other hand, this is the kind of update that we may get feedback on, tweak it back and forth. Maybe it'll become more useful elsewhere in the worlds in future. Maybe it won't. Asking you to rebalance your build around that is a bit of a tall order, because you don't know what it's going to do in future. So for that reason, we're moving it down to 75, like other items are, so that if it goes out, you won't have changed your account irrevocably around it. We also got a suggestion sent in where if you buy the thing more than once, the number of emblem points you'll charge to pay decreases. It's a little bit like what's done with Ilfiend recharging your stuff, because where the price goes down a bit after she's done it a few. We weren't planning on taking it down so low that it becomes cheap, obviously, but so that people who've been playing a lot of Bounty Hunter can get this in future. The aim being, if you're going to use it in Bounty Hunter, then there it is, and you can have a good knockabout with it on those worlds as you're playing, and maybe for other things in the wilderness on those worlds, and anyone else you meet too. But like how when we add new weapons inside Last Man Standing, they're just inside that minigame. This one is just inside Bounty Worlds. We understand that players are, of course, very concerned that, you did this without a poll, therefore the next thing would be EOC and MTX and all the parade of horribles you might imagine. A question, why would we do that? We're doing this because we have had it fairly clearly demonstrated over a very long time that the poll system we set up has flaws. And while some might prefer that we case, even if it means that problems are neglected, even if it means some sections of the community can never have an update and are left to just wither away. We feel, on the other hand, that trying to offer this game and restricting it so as to minimise the impact on other people, we hope that would be an acceptable compromise for people. We understand for some it's still a step too far, although I'd note that we've had to do quite a lot of adjustments over the years when we found that self-interest versus what was necessary for the game led to poor results that didn't serve the game. So, and we understand that there'll be some upset about that. Sorry.
I think it's right in trying to find the point of finding a medium that benefits as many people as possible without hurting too much or anything at all. In this case, with it being so restrictive, where people still get to enjoy the content that they want, but at the same time, people that don't necessarily want to see it don't have to necessarily go anywhere near it. To follow on from that then, do we have any expectations of when we expect to see the Bounty Hunter revival come back into the game?
Still look at late April.
So watch this space. You heard it here first. I'm going to jump into a couple of chat questions before we move on to some other ones we had before the live stream. Are there any updates on Group Ironman that we can share?
Not in that one. As we mentioned, in fact, on the stage at RuneFest when we first announced it, for Group Ironman to exist, we first need a grouping system, and we need the clan system that's being made for us, that we also promised in the same session at RuneFest, even though it doesn't get so many tweets about it. So that is, big engine job. They've been on it for a while, and they've made a lot of progress. Players have heard before about how they'd set up the databases so they define a clan, but that's still a long way from having it connect to the game world so that we can call commands that generate a clan and modify a clan, and then create menus for you to create your clans through them. Talking, I think, months rather than before that comes out, because it's one of the most ambitious platform things we've tried to do since 2018. And only on the other side of that can we then move on to Group Ironman, which would be using the same infrastructure. It's a shame. It's a real shame, because a lot of people have pointed out that, hey, if you just launch Group Ironman now, you could get lots of traffic while people are all locked down and stuck in their houses. And you know what? We think so too. On the other hand, I'm afraid even with the pandemic, we can't knock it out right now. We will, of course, bring it to you as soon as we can. And we hope you'll enjoy it when you do get it. But it's unlikely to be anywhere before the summer, certainly, and probably not for a while after.
There we go. Probably to stretch this question out a little bit to Mod Tide and Mod Arcane. When Group Ironman comes, are you going to jump in, create a team, either with your friends or other members of the team?
Ooh, I definitely will be. I have a few friends from university that will probably play it with me. And maybe a couple people from the clan. But I'm not going to say which clan.
This is going to come off as a weird flex, but if you've got more than 5 friends, then who do you pick, right? How many Group Ironman accounts do you make? That's going to be the tough choice. Whose team do you join? But yeah, I most definitely will be joining it.
Well, we found out that Mod Arcane has friends. Yeah, I think there are a few of us in the office that kind of would be excited to put a team together. I'm pretty sure Mod Husky would be down for it. I know I would be. I'd like to think Kieran would get involved as well. Maybe we can get a old school maxed Iron Man team together. There is 5 of us now, so who knows? Maybe something. I think it'll be kind of cool to see our progress playing it as well, and a lot of other content that we're going to see from that on YouTube and things like that. Definitely one that I'm looking forward to for sure. Right, Cyclops Rob asks, do you think there will ever be a challenge mode for Theatre of Blood for a metamorphic dust for some of the other pets? Or the other versions of Verzik?
I know that Kieran's mentioned that he doesn't want to do it in the same way as Challenge Mode Chambers did it. He'd like to take it a slightly different route, forcing people to complete 400 of a much slower instance to hit the rate of it. Might be a bit intimidating. So it really comes down to how Challenge Mode TOB gets implemented, right? How the dust is actually handled.
I have another question from I'm Josh saying, please would consider polling stealing creation, shooting stars, and hunting penguins. Thank you. It's not more of a statement than a question. But
probably
I believe we did
hunting penguins.
Hunting penguins, is that the one you prefer?
No, I said probably not that one. That's the one which you can just go around clicking on penguins and get free XP, wasn't it?
It was kind of a Tears of Guthix on steroids.
Yeah.
From what I remember. But I believe we did cover... Oh no, we covered Soul Wars in the March Gazette, didn't we? I know some people have been looking to see what else is available to us. So keep an eye out in the future Gazettes, really, to try and get hold of that information first. A question from a name I cannot pronounce, so I'll call him Dave. Or her Dave, whichever one. Is the World Slayer task update coming next week?
Might be the week after.
Fair enough, I think that was you, Mod Tide, who did some of the dev work behind that. I think it's waiting some QA and
What's the way? Could you say that again, please?
The Wilderness Slayer task updates.
Oh yes, that's currently awaiting QA, I believe. But yeah, some of them, well, because there were some complaints about it changing making Wilderness Slayer not as much more desirable. So the weightings were changed based on that, so you wouldn't get the bad tasks as more often, just to help compensate for that.
That makes perfect sense. I know people enjoy their Wilderness Slayer for gaining the points quickly, so anything that still helps them to do that is good. I've got a general question here from Colin saying, did you have a nice Easter?
Yeah, I spent my entire Easter hunting medium clues on my iron. So yeah, great fun.
Cool. I think I spent my Easter playing a lot of Counter-Strike, and then I got a Valorant beta key last week, and that's been interesting.
Nice.
I've got some time for some actual personal programming work, and got some progress made on something that I've wanted to do for quite a long time, but I'm not. I don't think I'd like shares of it just yet, because it's something that might be a long way off, and I don't want there's promises that may not be kept for ages.
Yeah, I think I got hold of the Final Fantasy VII remake at the beginning of Friday, and proceeded to finish it in about 2 days. So I didn't get a lot of sleep over the Easter holiday, but enjoyable all the same.
Respect.
You got to put in those hours. Right, let's go back to some of the questions we had pre-prepared. Where are we currently with the death work? Is there any chance we can get a status update?
The death rework is paused because it wouldn't have got through testing before Deadman began, due to lack of QA staff following the pandemic incident, and we don't think trying to launch it during the Deadman. So that's now looking like it'll be in the sometime in June.
That makes perfect sense. Players are noticing a lot of new names at the bottom of the OSRS news posts. Who are some of these new Jmods, and what do they do? I think we're actually looking to explain a little bit more about some of the new hires or new members of the team that have appeared at the bottom of the news post in the next Gazette, to try and give information about some of those names that you may not have seen before, where we've got people in, or people have joined the team whereas perhaps they were working for the team but not formally a part of. For instance, like Mod Boko and Mod Vanguard have been engine developers at Jagex for a while, and they're now situated directly within the old school team, naturally to do a lot of the work that you guys would like for the clan system and thus Group Ironman. So we're very happy to have those on board. And I believe we've also shown some of the other recent hires on previous live streams. I believe Mod Fed and Mod Bonsai were on one a couple of months ago, when they were fairly new to the team. And we'll try to get as many more of the some of the others onto the live stream where we can, for you guys to meet them and kind of grill them a little bit about who they are and what they do. Are there any plans for a wilderness rework that was hinted at in the PvP statement blog? If so, what are they? I think that's probably one for myself or you, Ash.
Frankly, I don't have a lot of details on that one myself, so why do I leave that one for you?
Yeah, so one of the things that we have Mod Oasis working on that was in the PvP blog is looking at the moving of clan wars and last man standing to kind of where they were in the wilderness when clan wars was first introduced. So kind of like in the level 15 range near the Graveyard of Shadows, and that's the kind of area that we're looking at now. Isn't the Graveyard of Shadows one of the two graveyards?
Originally, they were north east of the Chaos Temple. Well, originally Clan Wars was. We considered that it didn't have to be there since we weren't going to block out the whole middle of the wilderness with the Clan Wars maps were, because nobody's ever wanted that done again. Sorry, when you asked the question earlier, by the way, I thought you were referring to something else and that I didn't know about. This one, on the other hand, I have seen plans for. And yeah, the hope is that we'd be able to get by putting a safe area in the wilderness with a bank in it, it would form a sort of hotspot area where people would potentially come and hang around and fight each other, maybe casually, maybe a bit more intensively, like or could have arisen when the wilderness was like that before.
And yeah, that's the kind of thing we think will probably be one of the more impactful things that was in the Gazette to kind of get a teeth into and see how players feel about it. I think one of the discussions about it was perhaps having a expanded Crystalia respawn in that safe area as well, so players who really only want to do PvP can pretty much die and be right back where they wanted to be to walk straight back out again. Moving on to the next question. There was a line in the game update news post that put the league worlds are closing. Does this mean if I don't claim my points and log into them before they close, I lose those points? And the short answer, yes. That's what they've been there for, to allow players for a grace period to collect any points that they may not have claimed while they were performing in the league. Look like Ash wants to jump in.
Could we clarify to that, though? Yeah, sorry, I've got a rather bad lag here. Something that players didn't always pick up, though, is that this is not about spending down spending down the points that you've already got. Like, if you've claimed your points, you've been shopping with them, then yeah, you're going to keep those points. They'll still be available to spend on the rewards from the next league. This is about people who did things during the league, didn't click the claim points button when there still was one, logged out, never came back, and still effectively need to go click that claim points button to get the actual points transferred over to their main profile. Those worlds exist for those people, and I don't think there'll be very many of them left, frankly, because, firstly, we made it unnecessary to click the claim points button after about a month, and secondly, it's been many weeks for people to have come and done that. So this is just for people who didn't click the claim points button, basically. They've got until next week or so to do so, after which we'll take those worlds away, and I'm afraid those points will be lost. But people who did claim their points and who have been spending them in the existing reward shop, they will keep their points. Those aren't going to go away with this.
Yeah, sorry if I didn't explain that quite as eloquently as I'd have hoped, but yeah, it is pretty much just anything you've already got, you'll keep. Anything you did not claim, go claim it now. If you don't have anything to claim, just check the world anyway. I guess there's no harm in double checking, and make sure you get them before they're scheduled to close with next week's update. I've got a question here that's perfect for Mod Arcane. There are a lot of current issues with the Grotesque Guardians which makes them unappealing to kill. Are there any changes you plan to make to them in the future, and what changes would you if you could?
So this has been discussed on stream a few times now. I'm personally not working on this at all. I'm still in training. I don't actually have projects assigned to me at all. But I know another developer is working on it and investigating it. And what we've said before, and what we're still going with, is that we want to reduce the amount of time in between the phases, the transition times, all of those things, whether it's reducing the amount of phases or reducing how long they last. We want to basically make you spend more time killing the boss instead of looking at the boss, you know? And I think that'll aid the entire experience quite a lot.
Makes all perfect sense. Mod Tithe, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. The only thing I was thinking mainly was to just reduce the time between phase transitions, or maybe just remove the phase transition completely and add the light beams as an actual mechanic when you're fighting the boss.
It would be a shame to take away all the effort that Modguy's put into all that when we created the Grotesque Guardians, but at the end of the day, if it makes it better to play and more people want to go there, then it's something we should probably look at. A question I have here is, any thoughts of using the crystals in the Prifddinas shop with the crown to colour the blade of Saeldor?
I think Acorn posted that she'd had a chat with the people who made Prifddinas and talked to them about this idea when it came up the other day. And they were generally okay with it, or something like it. So maybe they'll get to do something with it in a future update to the area.
I know as soon as those crowns came out, a couple of the team who worked on Prifddinas went out immediately and brought their crowns in their favourite colour. I think some people had a little bit more coins to spend than some of the rest of us.
Something recently was a request for being able to use crystal shards to get another graceful recolour in the same way that Karen's got lots of them. The request was to be able to do that with a Prifddinas style crystal themed one. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Would you consider to make it actual pieces of crystal? Because I know we have the light blue from Piscarillis already, so I'd be a bit cautious of perhaps clashing with that one.
The suggestion it be a different model, looking like it was made of crystal, but still conforming to graceful shape rather than looking like body armour.
An interesting thought. I'll be curious to see what the players think about that. Moving on, what are your thoughts about being able to resell items back to Recolour in Tithe Farm for a small percentage of the cost?
Sure. Reasonable.
Have you done much Tithe Farm on Arcane?
I did quite a lot on the Twisted Leagues, and then I did a bit on my Ironman to get the Auto Weed perk. I think it's okay content. It's quite engaging if you're trying to do like the really advanced methods, but it's quite a long process. You get an okay amount of XP. So making people be able to do a bit less of that by trading in items is probably beneficial.
I think I pretty
Have to
much
watch out
only
for
did a hat as Fashionscape.
It's good Fashionscape.
Have to watch out for the grape seeds though. You don't want people buying points.
Yeah, I think if you made perhaps the untradeable things being able to be cashed back in, so if someone doesn't have a use for their seed box anymore, or the watering cap, etc.
Yeah.
I think there might even
the
still be
farming
some
outfit.
player concerns about getting hold of those grape seeds, or at least the Zamorakian converters. I'm going to go back to some of the questions that we've had from the chat I haven't gone through yet. Is there any chance we can add a make last option to the Anvils like we have with the teleport option for the jewelry box?
I don't think it'd be hard to do, but would we want to do that? Would that make it a bit too easy to do your crafting? Crafting? Smithing?
I think for me it'll be a little bit too easy, and as soon as you add it to one skill, they're going to want it. People are going to want it everywhere else, which then kind of removes the point. I know you can pretty much just hit space now anyway, and you can do the same thing as you used to for a lot of instances. So maybe perhaps it's just not even necessary anymore, and the player hasn't noticed that update. think that was one of yours as well, Tithe, wasn't it?
The Make X was, yeah, but I don't think you can press space bar.
Maybe not in the smithing interface, but everywhere else.
No. Don't think there was. I believe that was Mod Oasis who did the chat box one.
Oh, I apologise to Mod Oasis, I completely overlooked what he did. Semi-Cooked Memes asks, can you guys stream making breakfast in the morning?
Oh, that'd be a nice 5-second job for me. Walk downstairs,
Yeah.
grab a monster, crack it open, done.
I think that's pretty much what I had for breakfast this morning as well.
I mean, I guess you could like record it and slow
Well,
it down.
a kettle for me.
You'd probably break YouTube with a video of you making tea, Ash.
Oof.
They want to know which monster.
Is that an ultra red?
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's got to be an ultra
I've also
red.
got the
I'm
blue
afraid.
one. I have all of them, is that not allowed? Well, red, blue, and the white one.
Right, moving on to another question. I've lost it now. Are there any plans for other skilling pet colour reworks, as you did with the farming pet?
We saw a design for the Rocky one internally recently. So the theming pet.
So I think Mod West may have recoloured it to become a red trash panda.
Yeah, looks really cool.
What about any other pets? Are there anything that you guys would perhaps like to see us modify and put out to the players?
I mean, we're getting the squirrel one soon, right?
Yes, I believe that was mentioned as part of the Hallowed Sepulchre,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. I also know Mod Curse did a redesign of the Vespula pet to make it the flying option as well in his free time. So I think he'd like to offer that on an upcoming poll at some point soon.
That'd be
I
really
think
cool.
a walking heron would be really nice.
A walking heron.
Yeah.
Oh, the Abyssal Sire one as well would be cool.
As in making it so it looks more like the Sire as opposed to an Abyssal Demon, or...
Yeah, because the Sire's got like the big belly thing, right? It looks really cool.
Ash trying to hold in laughter there.
I'm thinking that you could have more of the barbarian assault creatures following you rather than always the queen.
Yeah.
Like those little stovepipe healers, they look awful, and I think having them tramping around the landscape would be quite a laugh.
I think we may even have the transmog made already for the staff member Rotten Potatoes for when we pop into the live world. So they might already be sitting there. A question from Mini Bradders. Have you ever thought about re-evaluating the level requirements for a lot of weapons and changing up the tiers?
Yes.
I think it is something that should probably be approached at some point, given that the Twisted Bow clearly isn't where it is at, and the Blowpipe maybe isn't the level it should be.
It's a big job.
A very big one, considering all the different weapons have released over the years. I'm not going to say that person's name because it's not helpful. What are the upcoming tutorial island changes? Could it include the ability to complete it with 0 combat XP so we don't have to wait for Skippy?
For what it's worth, what I'd have liked to see there is simply to wipe the XP you get at the end of it in the same way that we wipe your bag in, so that it becomes immaterial. You finish the island, there you are, pristine in Lumbridge with 0 stats. We have still not got the ability to do that, unfortunately, in much the same way that we can't offer negative XP lamps right now, which is a shame. But that feels like one of the tidier approaches, rather than having every new player faced with an inexplicable message asking, do you want to receive XP as you do this? You can never undo it. It's a little off-putting in the user flow.
Maybe you could elaborate, Mod Tithe, on some of the things we're looking to do with Tutorial Island?
One of my favourite things that we were looking at doing is adding a way to teach you how to use the world map. So adding maybe a navigation tutor of some sorts. As well as maybe introducing players into the loot loop when killing monsters. And actually showing players how to train prayer. They are some of the main things we were thinking looking off, with some other minor changes around the tutorial island.
And so I think the other thing we'd like to point out is we'd still like to keep the general feel of how the tutorial is, because obviously that'll be one of the things that the people first see when they come into the game, and one of the things that they remember with like the art style and what they did as they go through, and the progression as they went through Tutorial Island. So even though we're looking at improving it, we're still wanting to very much keep the essence of what Tutorial Island was for everyone when they went through it. Patrick Twick.
I mean, nothing that's been described here stopped it being an island.
Carry on, Ash. Sorry about that.
Something that's been discussed here takes away from the bit where you walk around an island and meet tutor after tutor. I'm getting almost no signal back from you guys at the moment.
Yeah, I thought we did lose you as you were about halfway through that.
No great loss, but we don't want to change it too much.
So,
Want to keep the... Ignore me, don't worry.
Fair enough. So he asks, or she asks, the Great Orb Project was a really fun minigame. Would you consider bringing it back?
I can't remember what you do in that minigame.
I think that was the one where you went from altar to altar and had to do something with spirits.
You push and repel and attract things. I'm generally okay. I mean, the thing that used to be a sticking point for us over the years was getting the graphics recreated to make it how players remembered it. That's a lot less of an issue than it used to be. Now, people don't always want to see stuff ported over from the other game. On the other hand, this one's reasonably popular. We just have to make sure that whatever it did to XP rates was acceptable to people.
Am I correct in saying this was also in the Rune Crafting Guild?
It was on the top floor, I believe, of the Wizard's Tower.
Yes, it was beautiful.
Solo asks, can we get another way of obtaining red Topaz gems? Perhaps a very rare chance from Thzaar pickpocketing.
Would that mean you would actually pickpocket Thzaars then? Because if it's really rare, then you're probably still going to want to mine the rocks, right? The rocks are still decent.
I was going to say I didn't think they were that rare from mining the rocks.
If you
I've
want
got
to
an
get
objection
a
to
lot
picking up
of
things that don't have trousers on.
you
Well,
can
what are you
pickpocket
going
them
into
already, but just not for
if you're pickpocketing?
topazes. Oh boy.
What about from the gem stores? If they're not already there.
I don't think they are. I think the only places you could really acquire them was mining the gem rocks in Shiloh, or if you were really lucky, you could pan for opals and jades in the dig site. I think that might be the only other location.
Yeah, so maybe add them to gem stores as well, because they are a gem store and they are a gem.
There might be some lore issue that we're missing in terms of red topazes appearing in Thzaar, but it's not too far away in terms of location to fit it together.
The question for me is what this player wants with those red topaz gems. I don't particularly have much use for them myself in game, but I may be missing something here.
Probably making burning amulets or slaughter bracelets.
Of course.
You shouldn't need to make too many of them. It depends what you're doing. I don't think I've needed more than 40 topaz gems, red topazes, in all of my Slayer. But it depends what you're doing, right?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Sven asks, are there any chance Skillcape Perks are getting an update? For example, the Slayer Cape isn't too useful for something that takes too long to get. I would argue that the Slayer Cape is one of the more useful ones, given the fact that you can repeat a task where you get a decent amount of XP from, albeit at 10%, but...
Also, depending on the task, it could be a lot of money.
Yeah, I know it's particularly useful when you're getting things like Smoke Devils, things like that, which are high XP per hour tasks. But I would like to think that they mean more things like the Herblore Cape, which is just a pestle and mortar, I think.
It was suggested that we could let you have the Amulet of Chemistry effect occasionally for free once you'd got that thing. Not always the time, but more often at the chance of it or something.
There's definitely a range of power levels for the 99 capes. It would be quite nice to get them at least closer to it, in line with each other, right? It'd be almost impossible to get them all equally balanced, right? But a bit closer would be worth investigating, I think.
Well, we can be pretty confident that the water is not the place we're aiming for, but they used to be all equal to each other when we started, and that was when they had no perks.
Remove the perks. There's an option.
I love my cooking cape perk. Don't take that away from me.
I don't know what I'd do without the construction of the crafting cape perks.
Walk.
Yeah, or buy God knows how many house tablets.
Harsh.
Baird Blaze asks, are you guys planning on adding a fire giant boss like the other giants?
Somebody was drawing up plans for an ice one, weren't they?
I think the idea is of fire and ice giant bosses have dipped in and out of the team probably half a dozen times over the last few years.
It's something, in fact, somebody even put together some placeholder code back when Briarfight was under construction, but didn't get to go much further with it at the time. And also, I think Husky would have done an Ice Giant boss if he hadn't... Well, at the end of his training, I think he considered an Ice Giant boss, and then found that we'd gone and promised the Forthos dungeon with Serachnis in a blog the previous winter. And we felt we should probably conclude that one rather than pitching something else when you forget the previous thing. So he did that instead. But I can't imagine he'd object to going back to the idea of an ice one. And it's the kind of thing I'd enjoy too, frankly.
I know when Mod Kira was creating Biofighter, at the same time me and him were working on a design to have kind of like a twin boss of fire and ice for free to play, and have them both in kind of the same sort of battle to bring something a little bit different.
A big puddle, presumably.
Maybe. I think we were looking at somewhere in the Remington dungeon, seeing as that has like kind of like the Asgarnia ice and the regular side of it as well. Although the trickiest bit would be thinking about how players would enter, given that there aren't fire giants in free-to-play. Although I believe there are the ice giants up at Gorok.
There's certainly ice giants, well, there's one in that dungeon, for example, we presumably just let it go about free-to-play getting a fire giant boss, despite not seeing fire giants very often, and let them in with whatever they got off an ice giant, maybe.
Or perhaps go for a completely different mechanic as opposed to the key system. I know it's one of those ones that's kind of like a Marmite system for a lot of players. Paladin asks, when will there be mod plushies available for purchase? I think someone wants to buy themselves a cuddly mod Ash.
Not sure about plushies, but a body pillow would be cool, right?
I didn't interview you, did I?
No. That might be just as well with that answer. Right, so coming towards the end of the stream, I'm just going to ask one or two more quick questions that we can get through. Do we have any intentions of adding drop or level 99 announcements into the clan chats like RuneScape has when we do the clan system?
Have to see what the system supports. If we can, we'll certainly offer that option, with the option to not receive them as well.
And Harmer asks, are there any plans on releasing a Completionist cape?
I don't see a reason why not. It would give people some more content to go towards. But it probably shouldn't have all the stats and the perks and abilities. Probably shouldn't even have a cape. Yeah. It should just be a nice list of things that you can do after you've completed maxing yourself.
So maybe a Completionist list.
Cape. Yeah, definitely wouldn't have all the advantages.
Well, I mean, we have the collection log, so I guess it's more of a content-based version of that.
Yeah.
The collection log's not really completable, right? Every third age piece.
If you take out the clue items, then...
It has been suggested that if we did a Completionist cape that was purely cosmetic, we could give it attributes of other capes by feeding them into it, combining them. Wouldn't have to make cosmetic alternatives, but we might be able to give it, make it usable in practical situations, but without making it itself the BIS. Got off a player.
I think all I'd do is dump my max cape straight into it and be done. Like, I can't think of any other cape that's like consistently helpful. Right, so as we come towards the end of the stream, just going to go over a couple of things that we announced at the beginning. For those of you who don't know, Mod Arcane is our new junior content developer who joined us a couple of weeks ago. So we look forward to seeing what content he comes out with. You can put !new mod in the chat to get more info about that. Last week we released our April Gillinor Gazette, which overviewed the settings menu overhaul that we'd like to do, as well as some more information about the Hallowed Sepulchre. !Gazette will get more information about that. This weekend sees our 3-day 1v1 tournament that we're hosting on Twitch with a few guest announcers and commentators. !1v1. And I think that just about wraps us up. In that case, I would like to say thank you to all the mods who jumped on the stream with me today. Hopefully it wasn't too awkward for my first time. And thank you to everyone else who came and stopped to watch us chat the breeze, really. So, enjoy your evening, catch as much of the 1v1 tournaments as you can, and have a good week.